Hey guys, Kevin Smith for Scream Queen Season 1, Episode 2, Hell Week. And as you guys know, I really wasn't as impressed by the premiere as I wanted to be. So I didn't really know how this episode was going to be. But like I said, the premiere did give me some hope in the show. Like it was giving me hope that maybe this could be better. And I was hoping this would be a better episode. And I have to say that this was a better episode than the premiere. It still is not a perfect show by any means, and it's not great yet. It was a good episode. This was a good episode. It wasn't a great episode because there are a lot of problems and a lot of things that the show is doing, and I can't quite figure out exactly what they're trying to do, and I'll get into that. But this episode definitely gave me a little bit more hope in the show and definitely made me want to keep watching, which is something that I want the show to do. I want it to get me keep watching. I want to really enjoy this show, and this episode made me think maybe I'll enjoy it a bit more. We'll see. But let's just get into this episode. We start off with a monologue from Kathy Munsch, Dean Munsch, Jamie Lee Curtis's character. And we see how she's upset. Dean's used to always be in power. Now she feels like she's back in that power because of the murder investigation going on. She's all about it. She wants to be, the one to report everything. And I like this character, definitely. There are some things they're doing with her that I'm not really happy about. But things like this, I think she's doing a very good job with. And we see right away that they have now hired a detective, Chisholm, to basically investigate what's going on because they have now successfully covered up the deaths of both Mrs. Bean and Chanel number 2, who have both gone missing. They don't know that they're dead, and basically Munch tells them that everyone is a suspect at this point. Everyone's a suspect, and that they're not allowed to leave, and that every single one of them are on probation right now, and that was definitely very interesting. And, Chanel's telling her this is terrible, what they're doing, and this is an outrage, and that this is just not good at all, what's going on. And, Gigi says that they should try to be a bit more, they should try to be a bit more careful of what they're doing, and that basically anything they do is going to be suspicious, and I thought that was quite interesting. And we see right away that the Chanels are panicking. Now, I will say the Chanels were a bit better in this episode. I still don't really see a lot of, differences in personalities, but I was able to tolerate them a bit more in this episode. Chanel, I honestly didn't mind in this episode. I didn't think she was terrible, but I still am not very keen with, the direction they're going with her character. I'd like them to go in a more, in a better direction with their character than they are. Basically, they have to do whatever they can to cover the death of, Chanel number 2, and they need to figure out what to do with the body. They come up with all these kind of ridiculous solutions, and then we get what is by far my favorite scenes of both these 2 episodes so far. We get the character of Hester, who I think is going to become the best character on the show. And Ryan Murphy said that Leah Michelle is hilarious on the show, and she really is. Hester is one of the saving graces of the show by far, because Hester is all about gruesome death. She wants to mutilate Chanel number 2. She wants to do, full-on, just mutilation. She wants to murder her, just do whatever they can, she wants to, rip her apart, and obviously they're grossed out by it and everything, but I feel like Hester is gonna be, this really is gonna make them, I think, suspicious of Hester, because her obsession with death is obviously not good when there's a red devil out there. When the red devil's out there, they don't know if, Hester could be associated with that red devil, so that I found very interesting. And basically they decide to take the body and basically hide it in a freezer, and that's what they decide to do with that, and that's what happens with Chanel number 2. So we then get to introduce to another one of my favorite characters on the show that they've introduced, the security guard, this police officer, security guard, whatever she is, Denise, played by Niecy Nash. She is hilarious. I really love her character. She has this very strict order of conduct. She wants things to go a certain way. You can tell she has an agenda, and the agenda is very important to her. It's very funny to watch, and I thought she had such great comedic timing on the show, which is something that a lot of the characters really don't have on this show, and I'm going to get into that, but I thought she definitely did a very decent job, and I thought she was overall very, very good. And by the way, guys, if I forget something in these episodes, they explain so much in one scene. Like I said, a big problem with the show is the exposition. They explain so much in one scene that I can't get all the information at once, so if I forget something, that's why. And that's really that's why I don't talk about it as much as I should. And then we see Gigi is also there, and she's talking to her about she's talking to the girls about that. I like the line where Gigi's like, oh, it's gonna be like Friends, but you're kill instead of there's a killer on the loose. Now that was pretty funny when she said that. And definitely Gigi, she keeps making all these 90s references and things like that, and we still don't know why she's dressed in these 90s clothes. We don't know why. I'm starting to think that she was possibly traumatized because either she witnessed the mother getting killed, or maybe she was associated with that group. I mean, for all we know, she could have been one of the ones that abandoned her, and now she feels really bad about it. And if they did that, that could be very interesting, because I feel that would give, she could give Chanel a real reality check if that's what's going on there. That could be very interesting to see what they're doing with that. So, meanwhile, Hell Week is still going on. Chanel is not letting Hell Week not stop happening, and it's exactly what you think it is. It's complete torture. She's making she's making them scrub the floor. Zayday is really hating it, and she's complaining and everything. And basically, Grace goes on this mission. I don't remember exactly where she went, but basically, she goes into this dark room, basically, and there's something hidden in there. And, Chanel tells her, please don't go in this room. Just whatever you do, don't go in that room. And obviously, that's going to make her very suspicious. Why not go in that room? Why don't you want me to go in there? There's specifically a reason why, and we'll get into that later. But basically, that's what happens there. And meanwhile, Pete and Grace, things are really starting to get closer between Pete and Grace. We see in this episode that, they actually end up making out, and I was not a fan of this. I really wasn't. I'm not a fan of them rushing their relationship in episode 2. Already, they're having a makeout session, and already seems to be attracted to her, and it kind of just came out of nowhere, and especially just randomly. It was very strange, the way they handled that. I mean, you would think, again, this is, excuse me, this is episode 2. This is not episode, 4, and it felt like we were much later into the season than we were with this episode. That's one of my problems with the episode, is that it felt like we were much later into the season than we were, which, of course, we weren't, but we are definitely, it felt like we were much later into the season, and we obviously weren't. So Pete and Grace, very interesting stuff going on with them, and basically that's what happened between Pete and Grace. And Grace says to not speak of the kiss, and that nothing happened really. It just kind of seemed pointless. It kind of seemed like an awkward scene. I get that they're trying to create some drama between them, but again, you're not supposed to take the show that seriously, so when drama happens in the show, it just kind of feels weird. Meanwhile, we have a very weird thing going on between Wes and Kathy, Wes and Dean Munsch. She definitely has an attraction towards him, and she tries to inform him of what's going on with his daughter, and he wants to pull her out. He wants her gone, and, she's saying, well, that's not the right thing to do, and she's trying to get him not to panic, but yet she talks about the murder in, the most explicit way possible. It was quite funny to watch. I thought it was actually a pretty funny scene, and I definitely like seeing that. I am not, however, a fan of them doing this weird relationship stuff with Dean Munsch. I just think it's weird that they're doing it that way. I don't know why. The student thing, I think I understand a bit more, but with Wes, I don't know why they're doing that. To me, it just seems like they're trying to keep Wes on the show, and it just kind of seems pointless. I don't really like what they're doing with that, and I'm really not a fan of them having this whole thing between Wes and Munsch. I'm not a fan with that, really. So Grace and Chanel, basically, they decide to go into the room, even though Chanel told her not to. They decide to go into it, and here is where we get what I think is one of the more interesting plot points we've gotten so far in this show. I thought this was actually very interesting, because basically we realize that in that dark room is the bathtub in which the mother died with the baby, and we realize that we see a flashback, and I don't know if we're going to see flashbacks every episode, but I kind of feel like it's going to become a common thing. We see the mother dead. Nobody knows what to do. Everyone's freaking out, obviously. And we see that Munsch covered it up the whole time. She knew about it. She saw it. as well as, as well as Miss Bean. She covered it up as well. They were both there, and basically they both covered it up this whole time, and they don't want anyone to know about it, but they do know about it, and that's why she's so calm about it. I think that's why Munch is so calm. That's also why she's trying not to bring up another murder investigation, because she knows what could have happened, and this is not going to end well for Munch, definitely. And obviously, Chanel tells, she's telling Grace never to tell anyone, but Grace really wants to get the word out, which is understandable. Why wouldn't you want to get the word out about something like this? I can totally understand that, and I thought that was overall very, very interesting. I definitely really like seeing that. So, really, Grace doesn't know what to do. She's very conflicted on what to do with this situation, and I thought that was definitely very interesting. Now, the best improvement of a character, if I had to pick one character that improved the best in this episode, was Chad. Oh my god, this Chad is going to become one of my favorite characters in the show. Like I said, I really couldn't figure out what they were trying to do with Chad. It seemed like he was just a plain boyfriend, and then it seemed like he was more of into horror. And this episode, if they keep this Chad around, I'm really going to love his character, because he was very funny in this episode. We see that him and Chanel, they're having sex, basically, and the whole time Chad is making references to serial killer movies. It's like, I'm going to stab you so hard, and things like that, and it's obviously not turning her on, but it's turning him on, and it's very, very funny to watch, and I definitely really enjoyed that, and he's telling her to remain calm, and he's saying how he can't be a boyfriender because he's just so attractive and everyone really loves him. It's very funny. I love seeing this self-centric Chad. It's funny to watch, and especially because he's not a character we're supposed to like, it's very funny, and if they keep this character around, I'm definitely really gonna like Chad as a character, because I think that is also very funny. Boone, as well, as a character that I really enjoyed what they did with him, because I couldn't figure out what they were really gonna do with Boone, and instead of what they did with Ariana Grande, where they basically had her do nothing on the show, Nick Jonas actually has something compelling to do. Boone is a closeted homosexual. He has a crush on Chad, even though him and Chad are best friends. The reason that he can't let anyone know is because it is forbidden in their frat house. It is completely forbidden, and people have compared their frat house to Camp Tiger Claw. I keep waiting for Josh Charles to show up. Seriously, I keep waiting for Josh Charles to show up in that ridiculous, in those ridiculous polos with those ridiculous cargo shorts. I mean, I'm waiting for those three to show up, and it's not happening. I know this is a different show, but it very much feels like that, and I definitely like seeing that. But basically, Chad says he plans on keeping this a secret, that he's not going to tell anyone. Chanel then comes home, comes to the frat house the next day, wanting to make up with Chad, because obviously he got into a big fight, and she wants to apologize to him, and she gets completely the wrong idea of him and Boone. She sees them bed together, and basically Chad tells her exactly what's going on. I was happy that he told her this. I thought it was good that he told her that. He says, look, Chad's gay, Boone's gay, you can't tell anyone, and I don't want you to tell anyone. It's better that you don't let anyone know. And Chanel obviously wants to tell people what's going on. She tells Boone that she tells Chad that they're finished, and that Boone clearly likes him, and she just doesn't really know what's going on with Chad. Now, in terms of the Red Devil, I could definitely see Chad being a very good contender for the Red Devil, and I'll tell you guys why. Just the way Chad acts about, blood and murder and things like that, that's not a way a normal human being acts. It's just not. A normal human being does not react to murder that way, and Chad, I think, is a very good option for the Red Devil, and that could definitely be very interesting as to seeing if he is the Red Devil. I could definitely see him being the Red Devil, and that'd be very interesting if he is, because I don't know if he is, and it'd be interesting if he ends up being the Red Devil. And I know it's kind of early to pick, who the Red Devil is, but this is one of those shows where you want to try to guess, and that's something that you want to do. So Pete and Grace are having a conversation. Pete literally starts stripping right in front of Grace, and I'm like, dude, you're not even with her yet. What are you doing? Like, she said clearly, let's not talk about the kiss, and I'm happy that Grace's like, hey, can you please get dressed? I mean, it was a very, very awkward scene. I don't know what Pete is thinking, and Pete is definitely trying to go way too fast with this, and definitely, that was very interesting. But all changes, and also we did find out, I don't know if it was this episode or the last episode, but it seems like Pete most likely is the mother of is the baby of the mother that died. That I think he is the baby. That I think he is the mother's son that died. I think that is him, but that might not be true because then we see that Grace looks in Pete's closet, and in his closet is the Red Devil costume. So obviously she's freaking out. She thinks that he's the Red Devil. She starts accusing him of being the Red Devil. Now he claims this is a mascot uniform, but again, this is one of those shows where you just don't really know who to trust. So I don't know. I don't know if this is true or not. He tries to deny it. She talks about how she's going to get to third base with him, and that was a very awkward line because it seemed like she didn't want to be with him. And then she's like, "Oh, I'm going to get to third base with you." I'm like, "Do you want to be with him or do you not want to be with him?" This is a very weird storyline. I do think it's very interesting, that Pete gives her this look as she leaves. He gives this very menacing look to the camera, and that was very interesting. And I hope Pete does not end up being the Red Devil, because if he is, that'd just be way too predictable, and I really hope that doesn't end up happening, because I just think that'd be way too predictable if that did happen. I wouldn't be surprised if the show goes a predictable route, though. I definitely would not be surprised if they do that. This does not seem like a show that's going to be very unpredictable at all, except for the ending. I did find the ending to this episode quite unpredictable. I will get into that. But basically, we then see that they're at a restaurant. They're trying to talk about what they're going to do in terms of Chanel 2, because obviously they don't really know what to do about it and how to cover it up. And they see Boone right then and there. And, he wants to talk to Chanel in private. But right then and there, in front of all the Chanels, she talks about how she knows he's gay. And that she doesn't want to cover it up, and that she's really upset about it. And he tells her that that Chad is not gay, and that he really wants her to try to cover this up. He even wants to apply for Kappa Kappa Tow, which they obviously are not gonna let happen, but he really wants that to happen. And it just shows how much of a bitch Chanel is, and things like that. And I was kind of enjoying Chanel, but then after this, I was like, this is just stupid. Honestly, it's stupid. I don't like it. And again, you think of Mean Girls, which had very clever things like that. This really was not that clever at all, I don't think. I don't really think this was, really that well handled, and I really was not a fan of the way this played out. So that's really what happens there. We then see Denise. She is outside of Kappa Kappa Tow. She's with her partner. She is having coffee, basically trying to figure out what's going on. And she hears what sounds like a scream, basically. She hears a scream, and I'll talk about that. But basically, we then see Wes and Gigi. Gigi gets into the car with Wes, and they're listening to Always by Bon Jovi, which I really do like that song. And, he recognizes, I thought it was pretty funny. One of the funnier parts of this episode is when Wes admitted that the CD he had was called Power Ballads of the 90s. I thought that was pretty funny. But she knows it, and then Munsch gives this look like she's very upset. We don't know what she could do. I could honestly see Munsch possibly being the Red Devil. I could see that being a possibility. I don't know if she is, but it could definitely be a possibility. So Munch being the Red Devil, I'm not sure. Especially if Gigi is from the former sorority house. Maybe Munch wants to get her revenge on Gigi because of that. Now, I also feel that Munch is seducing those guys, including Chad. She's also seducing Chad. That's the guy she seduced. I forgot to say that. She's having sex with Chad. I think the reason she's doing that is basically to blackmail them. She wants to blackmail them. She, obviously is trying to hide what she's doing, and she's basically going to try to get them on her side so she doesn't seem suspicious at all, because obviously she's hidden this for years, and it doesn't really seem like she's affected by it, so I think that definitely is very interesting. But I'm still trying to figure out exactly what they're trying to do with Munch as a character. It seems like they have some good ideas, but just as a character, it's not really working for me. Her as the dean, going crazy, that I like, but this whole West thing is really stupid. I'm not a fan of it, and I really don't like that. So, all the girls are then sitting down and actually no, they're being hazed basically. They're all in like their underwear and they're having like tattoos written on them. It's getting very, very bad in terms of Hell Week. Not a good Hell Week for them at all. Obviously, it's Hell Week. What do you expect? It's what it sounds like. It's Hell Week. They're gonna torture them, and I'm pretty sure sorority houses do stuff like this. I wouldn't be surprised if they do. I heard sorority houses are not particularly fun, so I wouldn't be surprised if they did. But basically, Denise hears a scream. She goes inside. The Chanels are being idiots, basically going upstairs. And, Denise, I love the line where she's like, "You are idiots," because really, they are idiots. Not that was pretty funny. Denise is a character that I really wish would be a main character because she very much understands the nature of this show, which a lot of the characters and actresses and actors I don't think do. There are really only a few that do, and I'll talk about who does and who doesn't. But basically, she then sees that her partner has had a knife in her neck, and I thought it was really funny when she's like, "Why do you got a knife in your neck?" I thought that was really funny. She's freaking out, obviously. She's never seen anything like this. She flees very quickly. She's obviously freaked out, and that basically is everything that happens with her. She doesn't know what's going on, and she's freaking out, and basically, that's what happens there. So then Boone and the frat boys, basically, we see that there's a whole thing going on with them. Boone is lifting weights. I think he's trying to prove that he's athletic and that he can do this, and I think he's trying to cover up the fact that he's gay. And basically, he's lifting weights, and we then see what looks like the Red Devil attacks him and supposedly kills him, and I was really pissed off when they did that. I was like, no, you just killed one of the best characters on the show. Why are you doing this? I'm really not a fan of them killing off a character each week on this show. I'm really not a fan of that because I think a lot of these characters could end up being very compelling, and if they only do, like, one episode with them a week, if they only survive, like, a couple episodes, then they're really going to feel like they were wasted as characters. So I'm really not a fan of them killing everyone off one by one, which is why I was a fan at the ending of this episode, which I will get into. So Kappa Kappa Tow, they all sit down and eat dinner, and basically Chanel tells them that Hell Week is basically over. Even though Hell Week is over, that doesn't mean that she is still accusing them. She's freaking out, obviously, of what's going on. And they start to say that, she was a murderer, that she did murder Dr. that she, I don't even know why I keep saying Doctor. Her name, Mrs. Bean, they still accuse her of doing that. She says she didn't, and they're, saying that she is the one that did this, and she's telling them that they are ridiculous for thinking this and everything, and it's very interesting what's going on with Chanel here, and she freaks out, basically, and that's what happens with that. That's basically what happens there, and she's flipping out, and then Denise comes to tell them what's going on, and now they realize how dangerous the situation is, with her partner, and Chad comes to make amends with Chanel, who doesn't really seem that interested. She doesn't seem like she wants to get back together with him, even though he wants to. It seems like he was getting back together with her, but he tells her that, oh, there are a lot of other girls that like me and think I'm sexy, and it's pretty funny. I really like this cocky side of Chad. I mean, he's a dick, but that's what I love about his characters, that you're not supposed to take him seriously, and he's one of the characters I think understands the nature of this show, really. He's one of the things that understands it the best. However, the ending of this episode, I really loved. I really liked the way this episode ended, because we thought Boone was dead, but then we realized that he actually faked his death, and he is actually in cahoots with the Red Devil. We don't know why, and that's basically how the episode ends. Now, the only reason I could feel he is in cahoots with the Red Devil is to go after the Chanels, because obviously Chanel knows he's gay. He probably doesn't trust her, and I really feel that this is showing that it's probably Chad. I wouldn't be surprised if the Red Devil is Chad after this, because why else would Boone ally with him? And yeah, they might have just revealed that, but you never know. Maybe there's another character that Boone has a bond with that we just haven't seen yet. I don't know. But that I felt was very interesting. I like seeing that Boone is working with the Red Devil, especially since we did get 2 episodes. It really made me excited for next week's episode to see really what's going on with that. So we did get some really good stuff in this episode. We did get some stuff that was kind of stupid, and like I said, there are some characters that I just don't think are understanding this show. Like the Chanels feel like that whole thing with the Chanels, all the Hell Week, felt like a different show. It really does. I'm gonna say it, guys. It feels like two different shows at points. This show really does feel like two different shows. One of them feels like this like soap opera teen show, and the other feels like a horror show. And some of it's working, some of it's not. Like the thing with Boone, that's working for me. Munsch and Wes is not working at all. It's completely irrelevant, and I don't know why they have that on the show. It doesn't belong here, and I'm really not a fan of that. Hester, I now have like favorite characters on the show. I could probably name them. Hester, Denise, Boone, and Chad are all my favorite characters. I really love these four. And that's too bad because they're not even the central characters. Like our central characters are Chanel, Grace, Munch, Zayday. I'm not really a fan of them, I have to say. The main characters of the show, I'm really not as much of a fan of as I should be. Grace, I still feels a bit boring, and I'm not that into her character. She's just kind of bland for me. There's not much to her. And it's not that she's a bad character. It just seems like they don't know what to do with her. Because on one hand, she didn't want to be with, of course, she didn't want to be with Pete. But then on the other hand, she's like, oh, I'm going to go to third base with you. Is Pete also, do you think that he could possibly be the Red Devil? Do you think he could possibly be working with Boone? Why would he be working with Boone? I don't know. I don't even think he knows Boone. So, I mean, the only reason would be, again, for Chanel, because of what Chanel did to him. I could understand that. That really is the only reason why I could see that. Because I don't know why he would, I don't think he would just randomly date Grace just to kill her. I don't think that really is what he's trying to do there. Again, I'm not seeing much standouts from the Chanels. I'm really not. I'm pretty convinced that Gigi was a part of this whole, was a part of the original sorority. Do you think that Munch could possibly be the killer? Like I said, I kind of feel like Munch is the killer here because she's doing it to get revenge on Gigi, and Gigi I really feel is going to be the last one to die. That really is kind of what I feel is going to happen here. I really love Denise as a character. I like where they're going with her, definitely. That's going to be very interesting to see what happens there. I guess the only other question is who's really next to die, because obviously someone's going to die next. We don't know who it's going to be. We'll have to see what ends up happening with that. And also, do you think that Grace is going to be able to cover up what Munch did? I don't know. She obviously knows what Munch did, so you never know really what's going to happen there. But overall, guys, I thought this was a better episode than the first episode. Not a amazing episode by any point, by any means. I would definitely give this episode a B if I had to grade it. But, like I gave the last one a C+, I give this one a B. I thought it was a much better episode, but it still is not great. It's on the verge of being great. Like, it's getting there, but it's just, it's good. It's good right now. I think I'm gonna keep watching. I think it's gonna get better. There are things that I still really don't like, but I'm definitely gonna keep watching because I think it has potential to get better, and that's basically my review. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys thought of this episode. Which episode did you like better, the first or the second? For me, definitely the second I thought was a lot stronger. And we'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for a movie review, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.